Hello YouTube! I am going to make a video, the second video in my pagan series, about stereotypes. If you're pagan, you've all been stereotyped and you know it. And if you're not pagan, then you need to know these and know that we are not what you think we are. We're really not. So, the first stereotype, probably the most prolific, at least in the area I live in, because I live straight up in the Bible Belt, like Bible Belt city, is that all pagans are Satan worshippers. Now it's the most cliche one, and you'd think by this era that people would understand that we're not Satan worshippers. But no, all the time I still get asked if I'm a Satan worshiper because they see this pinnacle around my neck, and they'll come up to me and be like, "Do you worship Satan?" or "Why do you have a Satan star?" And then I have to explain to them that it's a pentacle, and then they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And then I gotta go into all this stuff about the pinnacle. We are not all Satan worshippers. And if you worship Satan, then you're not pagan. I mean, you could call yourself pagan, but you're not pagan because the definition of pagan, well, not definition, the understanding of pagan is polytheistic religions, which tend to do with multiple gods. Now, I have met pagans that only believed in one god, so it's not, I guess you can't completely say it's polytheistic, but that's the pretty basic term. It tends to be polytheistic religions, usually pre-Christian. I guess the second stereotypes is that we are either all the same or we're all Wiccans. I've said I've pagan before because pagan, I use pagan because it's a pretty simple term, but they automatically assume I'm Wiccan. We are not all Wiccans. We don't all practice Wicca. Okay? It's pretty simple. Just get that through your head already. I actually met a girl once who claimed to be Wiccan, and I go, "Oh, you're Wiccan? So what gods do you follow?" And she's all like, "The Egyptian ones." I'm like, "Okay, that's interesting. What's your patron god / goddess?" Because maybe goddess too. And she goes, "What's that mean?" And it goes like, "Your favorite, the one you feel closest to." And she goes, "Oh, that would have to be Apollo." And I just look at her and I'm like, "You just said you worship the Egyptian gods." You know, I don't care. I walked away. Because Apollo is not an Egyptian god, guys. He's not. So, I'm just, nothing against her. Just so you know. Just so you know. Another stereotype is basically that we're all hippies. I'm not a hippie. By any means am I not a hippie. And not all pagans are hippies. Which I assume that, that when I was young, I thought that stereotype too. I thought by being pagan, I was essentially a hippie. That was when I was in like 5th grade though, and that changed. My belief that changed very quickly. So, I understand. Or that we're all vegans. I love meat, guys. Don't take that the way that I know you took that. But, like, animals. I eat animals. I'm not vegan. I tried going vegan once. It was the worst week of my life. No. Another thing is that, now I've heard this stereotype in two completely different opposite directions. One, which kind of has to do with the hippie thing, is that we would never harm an animal. That's false. I hunt. I fish. You know, that's not true at all. I mean, there might be some out there. I'm sure there are some pagans that don't harm animals and that are hippies, but not all. And I've actually never met a hippie pagan. Um, and then the other side was it is that we all sacrifice animals. Now, there are pagans that sacrifice animals. Not all of us. So, I mean, I've never sacrificed an animal. I have met people who've sacrificed animals. I've seen an animal sacrifice, but I have not sacrificed an animal. However, I might, if it was called for in a certain ritual. But I tend to be able to find other ways of getting around that. And if you and most pagans, if they do sacrifice an animal, they still eat the animal, and they don't let it go to waste. So it's not even really sacrificing; it's just slaughtering an animal and eating it during a ritual. Um, Another one that I actually encountered just a few minutes ago when I asked one of my friends what they thought of pagans, and they thought they're all gothic. That is a really bad stereotype because I've heard it a million times too, and gothic people like to make people like. I mean, I've met many gothics that claim to be pagan, and then I'd ask them about it, and there's nothing wrong with them being gothic, nothing at all. I went through that phase too. Um, but they would claim that they were pagan, and then they knew nothing of paganism or the religion that they said they were, because it's usually they usually claim to be Wiccan, which Wiccan is a very broad topic as it is, because I mean I've met Wiccans that believe in so many different gods and so many different things. So I still to this day I can't really understand Wiccan because I've met so many different Wiccans that didn't believe the same thing. So um, I think Wiccan would be best described as just modern witchcraft in a sense. Let's see some more stereotypes if I can think of any. I think I've also heard that people believed we lived in communes. I don't live in a commune. I live in a street with normal houses, normal neighbors, annoying neighbors, but normal. And I've never stepped foot in a commune. I mean, that's me. Other pagans might have. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying pagans are very broad, and you can't stereotype them. Simple as that. And I think that's pretty good video for now. I mean, I can't think of any more. I'm sure that other people have heard other stereotypes, and if you have, go ahead, comment on them. Comment the stereotypes you've heard, or that you've been asked, or so on and so forth. So